And we are live. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, family? My name is Ro Lamb. I'm the host of this show, which is Ro Lamb Live. And I'm happy to be here with my brothers from the Creative Extreme. We're gonna talk about all the things they got going on, this incredible company that they are building. Um, I'm excited to talk to them about it. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about all those things. But the first thing, well, first let me say this. If you want to support this show, definitely head over to the Substack. I just posted what's been inspiring me this week. Just a small list, a couple of things that I've seen, some images, a couple, a short animation. So definitely check out the Substack. The link is in the description. And so with that, I love to start with the question. What is inspiring you right now, Christopher and Steffon? What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What's getting those creative juices going for you right now?
Steph, you want to go?
Sure. So what I do as I got a bunch of day jobs. I'm a freelance, I'm a freelance writer. I'm a freelance editor. I work at a gym. So I do a bunch of different things. So this is pretty cool, is that one of the stories that I'm reading for a client right now got really interesting today. I was working on it. Like, I've been reading it for a few days and it's been good. And then all of a sudden I was just, oh snap. Like it's futuristic. It's about AI, and all the dangers as well as the advantages of it all. So that's pretty interesting. But I'm actually really into the last movie I saw in the theaters was The Long Walk, which is a Stephen King movie. And I went back. I loved the book when I read it years ago. I loved the movie when I saw it, and I started reading the book again. So that's getting the so I just started reading the book again. So that's kind of getting the juices flowing. It's a little bit post-apocalyptic. It has some, fantasy and sci-fi elements to it, but it's also like a harrowing story about life and death. And yeah, so that's kind of getting my juices. That's one of the things that's getting my juices flowing right now. Chris, what about you?
Man, so I'm working. Steph knows this. I'm writing a series for streaming or television that's based off of an IP that we have called Wrath of Gallia, Endowment of Blood. If you take Game of Thrones, mix it with Castlevania, that's Wrath of Gallia, Endowment of Blood. And interestingly enough, I've been watching the Castlevania animated series on Netflix, the original joint with Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, while I'm writing, because that's what gets me going. That's what puts me in the zone, in the mind frame. And if I'm not watching that, I'm listening to the soundtrack or the score for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the video game. That just, it puts me in the right headspace, and when I'm in that space, everything just flows, real easy. So it switches, right? It switches in between what project I'm working on and, whatever it is I'm going for. But right now, I've been living in the Castlevania world.
Dope. Yeah. So for me, and I put this in the Substack, now I've been heavy on this Bad Bunny. So before this week, I knew who Bad Bunny was, but I hadn't really listened to Bad Bunny. And so that I just I think the song is called like TT Pregunta or something like that. I don't speak no Spanish. But I got this joint playing. I say, yo, I love this song. It's like 2 songs just on repeat. I'm like, all into them. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
So I think right now, and then watching, I don't know if y'all watched the Super Bowl, you watched the halftime. Yeah. It was just something special about, just seeing the culture, you know what I'm saying, and the way he represented for Puerto Rico, and it felt like a sibling, or it felt related to what Kendrick did last year.
Yeah.
And, it's just something special about people, putting on for their culture. You know what I'm saying? So,
for sure.
So I think that's been getting me like really thinking about even my work, as a writer and things I'm creating. Like, okay, how am I injecting my culture and my beliefs? And this is a quick side note. Something I've been thinking about a lot is, as an African American man, where is our culture, right? Because when you look at like Greek mythology, you look at Persian mythology, you can look at like all these ancient mythologies. And I think for African Americans, sometimes because we've been so disconnected from the motherland, we don't always feel the connection to that ancient lore. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I think about a lot. And so that's what Bad Bunny got me thinking about. So anyway, that's a quick side note.
No, I feel you. When I was watching the halftime show, like I don't speak or understand Spanish. Well, I mean, I'm like, you know, very, very, very little bit. I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I felt it. I felt the energy. I felt the performance. You know, and I think that's what it was about. It was about, like you said, seeing the culture represented and just feeling it. Right? You could feel the emotion. You could feel the joy. You could feel the pride. The pride in it. My wife is half Puerto Rican, so I mean, she was, you know, Wepa! She was all over, you know, all over the place. Her and the kids, but yeah, I feel like that's what it's about. And you know, to your point, because I'm half Nigerian. My father was Nigerian, came from you know, the motherland when he was 17, and so you know, I have a direct connection, right, to the old world and that culture, my culture, but at the same time, born and raised, you know, here, right, in around Chicago. So, you know, I'm a Black American as well, and the, like, to your point, the culture that we have here as Black Americans is different, not just from African cultures. It's different from any culture in the world, and not only is it different, but in a lot of ways, we're the heartbeat of a lot of different aspects of culture around the world: music, entertainment, acting, you know, fashion, slang. I mean, you can go down to etymology, or you can go to the runway, right? You can go to the record store, or you could go to the movie theater. You could go to the bookstore, or you can go to, you know, Cartoon Network, and you could see the influence. It's all over the place. It's in sports. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you say, like, Black culture, how is it being represented, or how is it showing up in this day and age? And it's just showing up in so many ways, man.
For sure.
I mean, that's what I think, you know.
For sure. I could talk about that all day. So I'm gonna leave that right there. But that was great insight. I appreciate that. And my next question, before we get into the meat of everything we want to talk about, how do you define creativity?
Yeah,
we both hit that Rick line.
Yeah. And I love asking this question, because when I've had people come on, I've asked this question, and the answer is always different every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beauties of creativity. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own approach to it. So anyway,
yeah,
y'all gotta play rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes
first. I mean, it's that's a great question, because as you said, it comes from so many different places. So like, I think if I had to pare down like my kind of like, because I have a lot of different thoughts about creativity, which I'm sure we all do, but I think if I had to pare it down to it, it's a mix of experience and speculation, you know? So like, just kind of the idea of like, okay, what have I seen? What have I been through? And where can I take this? You know, where can my imagination take what I've been through? You know, so you have that piece of it that's authentic to you, like you said, injecting who you are, where you're from, what you've experienced. But at the same time, we have to be okay with diving in and creating things that are unfamiliar to us, right? So we got to use our imagination, we got to do that research, and then we got to speculate to where we could take it. I often have, there's this argument between whether who can write for certain cultures, right? Like, you know, like when you see something and it's like, oh man, like you see a Black character and you can be like, I could tell a white guy wrote that, right? Kind of thing. You know, or you see something where it's like, oh, like this is a story about, you know, a gay couple, but like, you know, was the person who wrote it, were they gay? You know, or like this is a story about, you know, a refugee from Gaza, right? Like, does a refugee from Gaza have to write that story? Right? So we often go back and forth where it's like, all right, we have to both be able to take what's authentic to us, but we also, I think, as creators, have to be allowed to explore other cultures, other types of people. And we're not always going to get it right per se, but then who's to say that any one how do you say, experience, like, we're not a monolith, like we're three, Black men, we all have different experiences. Someone could write something that has a Black character in it, and two of us could be like, yo, I completely relate to that, and one of us could be like, what the hell is that? So when I think of that, like that kind of like that experience and speculation, that's kind of where I think, a place where I like to kind of sit, where it's like, all right, take from what I know, take from what I've experienced, and now try to imagine where I can take that.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. I'm gonna go off on a bit of a tangent here. It's interesting you brought up.
Do you think?
being Steph knows this. We call it, Steph calls it spider webbing. It's just all over, right? Whatever sticks. But no, Steph, you brought up, being able to write other voices, right, and other experiences, but having it be authentic. And it's like, what comes to mind for me is Quentin Tarantino writing his movies and his characters, and the backlash that he gets for using the N-word all throughout his movies, right? And I remember in African American film studies, we were talking about, writing other voices and representation of cultures and people in film. And QT came up, and somebody had said to me previously, a white person had said, because I had this conversation with a white friend of mine, and he said, like, I get it, I totally understand. It's if you're a Black person and you don't want a white person writing that type of dialogue and using that word so freely, I get it 100%. If you look at it from a writer's standpoint, and like Steph, you said, your experience, right? Relaying that experience and being authentic to the story and to the character and to your experience. He was saying, if you're a white person, that is how white people, not all, right? But these particular characters, these, detestable characters that he has in his films, that's how they talk amongst themselves when Black folks aren't around. He's like, so do you want the authenticity and the realness, and do you want a light shined on that? Or do you not want to see that because you don't believe it should be in a film? So yeah, hearing your take, it's like, that's a great question. It's like, how are you supposed to write another voice, right? And when you inject creativity into that, it's like, how creative do you get? How authentic do you get, right? How much speculation do you allow? Or how much of your experience do you put in there? For me, I think creativity is along those lines. It's authenticity and empathy. I think if you have the experience, you can be authentic, obviously, to telling the story or putting a voice to that character. If you know the character that you're writing inside and out, there's authenticity in writing that character, right? Because you know how they should be represented. You know what they're going to say, the decisions they're going to make and the actions they're going to take. If you don't have that experience, for me, I think this is where the empathy comes in. How empathetic are you to that type of person, to that particular story, and to that character? The more empathetic you are, I feel like the more insight you're going to have. If you don't have a lot of empathy, then you really now are leaning back on research, right? Testimonial, interviewing people, trying to get some background or some kind of feel for it. But that's pretty much what all writers do, or at least good writers do for any kind of story or any kind of character building and stuff, or world building. But I feel like when the empathy is there, that's what really helps the creativity flourish, because now you can freely play in the space when you're writing, and you're not second guessing. You're not stopping to think, oh, should I rewrite that? Would they have said that? Would they have done that? You can draw from those experiences, and you can also draw from the knowledge that you have of being empathetic towards those type of people, those characters, or those true stories that you're drawing from.
Yeah, and I like that you said that and even, if I spoke to the Quentin Tarantino example, I think that one of the things for me about being creative is there is a certain level of boldness and a not being afraid of being wrong, not being afraid of making the mistake, right? You got to be willing to say, I'm gonna try this. Let's see what happens with it. You know what I mean? And I think, if I'm Quentin Tarantino, or if I'm whoever I am, it's right. You got to live with that. You got to live with the fact that, okay, I'm gonna do this. There's gonna be some people who not gonna like this. There's gonna be some people who understand it, and we just gonna have to take the good with the bad. You feel me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are great answers, great insight on creativity. So now, can we talk a little bit about the creative extreme? I've been doing my research and listening to your podcast and listening to just some of your interviews. And can you guys talk a little bit about how this all started, where this all came from?
Yeah, sure. We met in college and we played basketball together in college. And
hold on. Christopher, what position did you play?
I played the 4.
You played the 4? Okay. No, Steffon, you played point guard, third string point guard.
Yes. I was the third string point guard. Yep.
Yeah. That wasn't a shot. I wasn't trying to take a shot. You know what I'm saying? I'm just curious. So my brother, side note, my brother played, he played for UConn, and he played professional for a little while. And so I'm always interested in the basketball side of it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he was not only was he the 4, but he was the star of the team that year. He was the man. He was leading.
He was him. Okay.
He was him. He was leading us to the promised land. He was giving cats the business all day, every day. And then I was the backup. I was the third string point guard. I was the captain of the practice squad. So I got to be like the best player on like the other team during practices. I was like, oh yeah, you're going to be the guy who scores all the points, So I was like, yes, that's
Steph was handing out work too. Don't let Steph fool me. He was handing out work too.
That's the only time I really, really got to shine. But but it was dope. We had a fun those couple of years that we were on a team together. I had been a writing major my whole time. I was a creative writing major in college, and I had no idea that Chris was doing his thing. So I graduated a couple of years before Chris, and I did greeting cards. I wrote greeting cards for 4 years, and while I was writing greeting cards, I was also starting to, get into my screenwriting, getting into my writing, and I was doing freelance book editing. And I was posting about, hey, if you need something edited, send it over my way. I'll help you write it, right? I get message from Chris. He's like, yo, what's good? I got this. I got something I want you to read. I was like, oh, dope. Send it over, right? And I'm thinking it's going to be, he's going to send me over a manuscript with, like, oh, it's going to be a nice little novel or whatever. He sends me like this 500-page like saga, like multi-generational, multi-universal saga. I'm like, what is going on?
He sent you the everything everywhere all at once.
Huh? Yes, that's exactly what. And I was like, dude, like, what have you been cooking, bro? I had no idea. You're like, I thought you were in law and finance and stuff like that. So, but basically, I had been working on just getting into screenwriting and everything. So I had a mentor who basically said, hey, it's great that you're working on these big pieces and you're going to get them out one day, but you got to be working on stuff that people can see now, like just little things, just start, putting stuff out there, workshopping it. And so got this idea from an artist friend who told me about that he was doodling a drawing every day, right? Project 360, he's going to do it 365. So I was like, dude, it'd be dope with some of the characters that I've created from my screenplays. If I could release a character to the internet every day, Project 365, then I was like, that's a lot of characters. I don't know if I have 365 characters, but I know a guy who just sent me a book that has like 120 characters in it. Let's combine the worlds. So that was like 2015, and we started talking about it. And then from there, we created Project 365, where we just, one character every day of the year, commission a bunch of different artists to draw us one image, because that was the affordable route to go rather than trying to create a whole comic book. That could be expensive. So we was like, hey, if we can get one image out of you, how much would that cost? And we were able to find all these artists who would do these individual images for us. And if we said, can you do 10 for us? They would give us these great deals. And these are people who had worked for like Marvel and DC and Cartoon Network. Like, we found them on the internet, and they were like, yeah, I'll do some freelance, for whatever, because they were also like, I love drawing these popular characters, but I rarely get to draw original characters.
Right.
So that's how we kind of started going. In 2016, we started the project, released 365 characters that year, and then we kind of hit the ground running into some other things.
So were y'all not close while you played on the team?
When we played on the team, like we had our team was very, we had a very strong bond on our team. Okay. So yeah, we were.
Steph, when I was my first year there, he lived 2 doors down from me. We lived in the same dorm.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 doors down. And Steph, Steph and his wife have been together forever. Like, if you have, shout out to Sharon Thomas, if you have a love story that you're gonna write, it's gonna follow Steffon and Sharon's story.
Yeah.
Me on the other hand, I was until I found my wife. So Steph, being 2 doors down, did what he was just doing right there. Yeah,
is somebody else knocking on his door? Come on, y'all. It's like lead.
Steph knows where the skeletons are buried.
Right. Well, let's get away from the skeletons. The question, Christopher, I'm wondering if you can speak to the alignment, because I think it's interesting that you guys, Steffon, you said you didn't know he was writing, or you didn't know he was working on things while y'all were hooping, and so I don't know. I guess I assume that this is something that you guys sort of knew that you were doing. But I guess my question is about the alignment that it takes to start something like this and to keep something like this going. What does that look like? How Christopher, how have y'all navigated and managed that?
Well, that's a great question. So one key element, I call Steph the abbot, because he's the knowledge, the wisdom that he has for creative writing, storytelling, all of that, it's second to none. So you got to have someone like Steph in the mix, right, to do something like this, because he's going to be able to, he's been a mentor of mine just as far as being a writer, helping me improve and get better and better and better, but also schooling me to the entertainment game, because I am in finance. I'm a vice president for JP Morgan. That's my day job. So when I came into it, Steph was mentioning the artists, right? Like, we had all these artists, and if we needed, 10 drawings, we were going to try to get a deal. And Steph was the one who schooled me to the fact that, look, like, creatives are different. Because I was coming in with my finance mode, right? Like, look, man, this is what we need. Give me your price. And they, I don't, I'm like, what are you stuttering for? What do you charge? And Steph was like, Chris, man, you gotta approach it different. It's not the same world. I'm coming in and I'm handing out RFPs to artists, like, this is the scope of the project. What's your best offer? Break it down per character. What's your delivery date? All this stuff. And stuff's like, I don't know if it's like the best way to go about dealing with artists, because they're very squirmish when it comes to pricing. So you need an Abbott, you need a Steph, right? But I also think you got to have the love for it, because if you don't love it, you're not going to be able to do it, especially something of this scope. Steph and I both love writing. We both love creating. We love world building. We love storytelling. And so for us, it was fun. We would sit down and to plan out a month, and we would start the call with a blank spreadsheet. We would end the call with the month planned out: character, name, origin, power set, and then how they tied into the overarching story, right? And sometimes those calls would take 8 hours. But we would be on the call laughing, joking, tangents, spiderwebs all over the place, not even talking about what we're supposed to be doing. But then we come back to it, right? But we loved it. So that's what enabled us to keep going and doing it. And then also, I think it takes like a true bond or a friendship between you and your partner. We've
Yeah.
all tried to do projects or work with people, friends, family, and we know how that often goes, right? But from the moment I started working with Steph, and like I said, a part of it's because I love him. I have the most respect I think you can have for anybody as a person for Steph, and so that lends to just like a great partnership, right? Because we're always going to be working to stay on the same page, and if those pages are ever drifting, we have those conversations to bring us back together. But
Right.
it's never anything that isn't manageable, and it's never anything really even that major. It's just, hey man, like you see it this way, I see it this way. Let's get back together and make sure we're aligned, so the next steps are side by side, as opposed to diverting and going different directions.
Yeah.
And then I think the last part will probably just be just being blessed to do it. Like, we couldn't do it without direction and without the inspiration and the ability blessed to us or given to us from God. So you combine all those things together and you can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Stefan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that one, he mentioned about like those times where we might not be on the same page. I think that kind of trust in being able to, call each other and say like, hey, listen, I don't think this is working. The story element is working. I don't think this, the way this is, and being able to kind of go back and forth and trust each other that we're not just saying that for the sake of saying it, or we're not too precious about our own ideas, right? Like, of course, like you said, we love it, but we know that the bigger the projects get, the more collaborative they get, right? So if you're not able to work as a team with one other person, how are you going to be able to work as a team with the production crew? How are you going to be able to work on a team, like, so being able to say like, hey, listen, like, this is like, I feel like this is the direction we should go, and being able to say, all right, like, I'm going to ride with that. And then if something comes up where it's like, I don't think this is working, we have a safe space to be able to say that to each other without feeling offended, without feeling like someone's trying to, like, bogart the situation or anything like that. So just being able to having that kind of trust. And I think a lot of people sometimes they get too precious about their creative, and they're like, they can't take critiques, they can't take notes, and if you can't do that, then especially the higher and higher you get up in there, it's like, we I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this, but we were working with a company under NBC Universal, and like there was a production company, and we spent a year getting notes back from them, and times on this project we were working on, and there were times where we were like, yo, like we can't get like we weren't able to hit all the things that they were saying, and we were like, what are we missing, and we instead of, rather than like, being like, all right, whatever, we was like, no, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna take the notes and we're gonna ask those questions. What can we do better? Give us a recommendation. What reference do you have that we can look at to make this better? Da 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 da. And so, I mean, we find it a privilege when someone's like, I want to help you make this better. Like, if someone believes in you enough to be like, I want to help you make this better, like, I think that's a good thing, so we do it for each other too.
Yeah. And I think that what's interesting about collaboration sometimes is you want to work with people who have a strong vision for what they want to do, because there's the passion there's that energy, but also connected to that is there's a cost to that strong vision, right? We both have really strong visions. Eventually we're gonna hit something, right? We're gonna butt heads at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder if you could speak more to how you navigate some of those moments when you do you're not seeing eye to eye on something, and you're saying, hey, I think we need to go left, and you're like, I think we need to go right. You know what I'm saying? How do y'all navigate and handle those moments?
Well, for me, I think just like Steph said, when there have been times when, for instance, I wrote a screenplay. It's a horror screenplay, and Steph was, going over it, and we were talking about it, And there were times where Steph would say, I guess that's not a good example, because Steph would give me notes, right? He would give me his feedback, his thoughts. And before he would stop talking, I would already have made the suggested change to the screenplay. So when he's done talking, I'm like, all right, how about this? Boom, boom, boom. I read it back to him. And he's like, yo, that's it. That's it, right? But it's because I was open to the critique and I was open to it. I think one time, I know one topic that Steph and I disagreed on was in the very beginning. It was because there were 3 people when we started. The other gentleman, shout out to Jamal, great guy. He had to, bow out because of, work stuff and just didn't have the time to commit to it. So it became Steph and I. And so Steph and I were doing Project 365, just us. And Steph, is like you said, he works with freelance stuff. He loves working with other writers, other creatives, and helping them work on their projects. And Steph wanted to bring in other writers as we were going on to work on it. From my perspective, I'm looking at it in a couple of ways. I'm saying, okay, everything is working perfect now, right? Like we're in perfect alignment. Everything's running smooth. We're killing the game. Like no issues whatsoever. We start introducing new elements. That's just a greater chance of kind of messing that up, right? From an IP standpoint, the more people you bring in, the more IP ownership you got to distribute out, and especially doing what we were doing with creating this connected, universe. If one person creates one character and then that character gets referenced or becomes a part of another story that Steph created, and then that character becomes a part of another story that I create in a completely different area of the project, and then that third person is no longer with Creative Extreme, there's a lot of gray area for IP ownership, right? So that was my other thing. It's like you and I, we have that trust, If we bring in a third person, it doesn't work out. We got IP just miasma of problems. So that was another thing. But Steph really wanted to bring in other writers and other people. And we had a number of conversations about it. And I think it was where we were able to come to common ground was I wasn't saying no, right? Like definitely not, never. Like that's a terrible idea. For me, it was right now, I think this is what's best. As we get moving forward and as we progress and as we continue to go, we'll have a lot more space, freedom, and opportunity to bring in other creatives or other partners on projects. So we're going to get there. I just didn't think it was at that time. And it was Steph trusting in that, I believe, Steph, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Steph trusting in that, me saying, not right now, but as we continue to grow, it'll organically happen and I'm going to be all with it. And that's, kind of how we proceeded, and that's how things unfolded. So it was having that trust and that respect, and then also knowing the other person, because Steph knew I wasn't coming from a place of, maliciousness or just a place of trying to be difficult, just to be difficult. I feel like I communicated legitimate concerns and he was open to hearing those, and he trusted me. I trusted him to hear me out, and he did, and we had discourse about it, but we landed in a common space. And I think it was trust and the respect that really helped us get to that common ground.
For sure, absolutely. And then, I mean, even you were talking about, the screenplay. I remember there was this one point where we were talking about the scene in a screenplay where there was a situation in which 2 characters were having a date. I think it was the 2 characters. It was in a horror screenplay. They were having a date, and I was like, "Yo, I think to drive home how terrible things are, this like." This, they should get intimate or whatever it was, right? I forget how exactly it played out. Yeah. And I was like, because I mean, one of the reasons we call ourselves a Creative Extreme is because we like to push the envelope. We like to take the story element and be like, all right, how can we make this a little bit more dramatic? How can we make it a little bit more action-packed? What element can we add to it to ratchet it up a little bit? And I was like, yo, this would make it crazy, this would make it so wild, and your audience will be reading it and be like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe that happened. And he was like, yeah, but I don't think that's not the theme that I want for this particular scene. That's not the theme I'm going for. And we were able to have that discussion where I was like, okay, like, because my thing is like, yeah, I'll give the advice. It's up to you to take it, and vice versa, But I think that that's, again, knowing how we work together, knowing that we can both trust each other's instincts, and that helps us to kind of navigate those difficult conversations, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I feel like you've touched on this a little bit already, but I just wanted to ask this question because it's one of the questions that I wrote down. And the reason why I want to ask this question is because I just love the chemistry that you two have. Like I said, I spent time watching your podcast and just seeing all the things you have, and even tonight, like watching you, like just the way you guys feed off of each other and build with each other. I just want to know what's been the most rewarding part for each of you in this collaboration.
Oh wow,
man! Well,
so much. Go ahead.
There's been a lot of rewarding moments. I will say, we got a lot more to come. So this answer is going to change in 2026, 2027, 2028 as we continue to, dominate in the space on the come up. Man, it's a mix for me. It's a mix for me. So there's small rewarding moments whenever I read something that Steph writes, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy, right? It happens often, but that's a rewarding moment for me because my brother just executed something that's crazy, right? That's so dope that it has me sitting there reading like, oh man, this is it. And it's because I think it's what I'm reading is so great as far as the character is awesome, the story is awesome, but there's also the converse of that, Steph has written characters that I detest. I cannot stand, right? I was on a Chicago bus at 5:00 in the morning reading a screenplay he just sent me. And I immediately texted him, I do not with this character. Not even in a little bit, not in the slightest, right? They were on my DNFW list, if you figured out what that stands for. And he was laughing. He's like, what? I'm like, dude, I can't stand this character. But again, it's rewarding because that gets me excited to read the story and see what happens. So there's a small scale, rewarding moments like that. And then I think the at least to date, right, the bigger rewarding moments for me have been, being able to be with Steph, and shout out to Maurice Elrod, another creative partner of ours, great guy, great director and writer. But we've collaborated on projects that we actually got to see end up on a big screen, and we got to watch in the theater with people that we don't know, we've never met. And we've been able to sit back and see their genuine reactions. Oh, hell no. And they're talking to the screen and getting invested in the characters and the story and everything like that. And, Mo had said, he's like, it's like, hearing your song on the radio for the first time. Like that's the feeling, so there's a huge reward in being able to experience that. So for me, I think it runs the gamut of the small rewards to the big rewards. But yeah. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just kind of let me throw some credit back your way. Is that when we did see our first thing that we saw on the screen was a set of characters that Chris created for our Alpha Initiative Zero film, and so it was super rewarding. Because I had seen like my words be performed before. Like I had done some stuff in like theater and had some stuff in like my community where it's like, oh, I wrote a script and some people went up on stage and said it, and some of my freelances in marketing. So I work with a company where I get to write video scripts, and then we get to film them and I get to see them. The first time I watched Chris watch his words on screen, that was super rewarding for me too, and seeing his characters who he poured so much love into, and that, we workshopped together and all that become, so I think those kinds of things, seeing those creative visions come to fruition, I believe this is probably true for a lot of creatives. It's like seeing something that started out as an idea become a reality. Like, I mean, that might be one of the most cliche things, but it does not get old. just letting me like, oh man, we're sitting there and we're just imagining, and then one day to see that imagination out so that other people. I once heard this real quick. I once heard this say, it's like when you're writing a screenplay and you're handing it to somebody, it's like it's the equivalent of you running up to a person on the street, grabbing them by the shoulders and say, listen to my fever dream for 2 hours.
Right.
And so when that fever dream actually becomes a reality, and you're like, man, there's people like listening to my fever dream for the next couple of hours.
Right.
It's a great feeling that you were able to translate that your ideas out to something that other people could consume in whatever way that is.
Yeah, for sure. That is, I appreciate y'all sharing that. And now I would love to talk about Alpha Initiative Zero. Can y'all give us let me see. I think I have the poster. Can y'all give us the pitch, the rundown? What is that project all about?
Yeah. So, well, it's based off of a bunch of people that I know who are military veterans, hearing their stories, seeing the life that they have post service and active duty, and coming back home and just wanting to shed a light on one, their experiences and the things that they went through or are going through, and two, and maybe even most importantly, to cast them in a light of being a hero. Right? I mean, these are real life heroes, the men and women who serve in our military. And oftentimes in film or television, shows, streaming series, whatever, they're either portrayed as just the tip of the spear for the United States government, right? Like point and shoot, or it's the trope of catastrophic PTSD, borderline psychosis. They're going to take everybody out within the vicinity, or they're going to become a terrorist type of thing. And so we wanted to, again, shed them in the light of these are our real life heroes. And what better way to do that than to make them actual superheroes, So that's the kind of the inspiration for it. Excuse me. But the story is about a special ops group, black ops group within the military that's formed to help combat the rising global threat of hyper beings who have ill intentions, if you will say, right? In our universe, hyper being meaning a person with powers or abilities, and so everybody isn't going to be good that gets these abilities. You're going to have the people who are going to be evil, or who are going to want to do evil and do bad, do wrong with their abilities. So the Alpha Initiative Zero is the group that is put together, or the response of the United States military to help deal with these threats. They undergo a very unique process where telepathic brain cells, so brain cells from the world's most powerful telepaths, are extracted from their brains and then are infused with nanotechnology and injected into the bodies of these special select soldiers. So these nanocells, now that have telepathic energy, are able to integrate with the soldier on a cellular level, giving them their enhanced speed, strength, durability, endurance, so on and so forth. But then they also have a material that is extremely lightweight, but 100 times more tough and strong than graphene, is then surgically attached to their muscular and skeletal system to give them even more enhanced durability and essentially make them the perfect soldier. However, when you have the perfect soldier, that doesn't negate the fact that they're still human, right? And so for Alpha Initiative Zero, you have the good versus bad angle, but what you really have are a group of unique individuals, unique human beings who are trying to navigate this new life, this new world that they're living in, right? And trying to find a sense of normalcy while at the same time trying to achieve their mission. And along the way, obviously, obstacle after obstacle, test after test, hurdle after hurdle, they find that banding together and coming together is what's going to help them succeed. But there's so many things that are trying to prevent that from happening, whether it's blatant and in their face or it's nefarious and it's you know it's in the dark,
All
it's
right.
secret. All those things are at play. So
Okay. So you gave the backstory. Let me ask. So this specific movie is about a small crew of them that goes in after a high value target, and as Chris mentioned, they have telepathic. They have telepathic cells inside of them. So what happens when one of the baddest dudes on the planet, who is also a telepath, finds out that these super soldiers have telepathic cells inside of them? He starts Is this a PG-13 or a rated R?
Nah,
podcast?
You good. Do your thing. It's rated R. Do your thing. We all grown. Do your thing.
He starts to, he starts to futz around with them. So it's it ends up the combat and the choreography, basically we wanted to be able to tell a story with our fight scenes. So we got connected with the person who approached us, James Gabsy. He has connections with a bunch of stunt people, some of the best stunt people literally in the world out of LA, and got them together. He's like, we're going to create some really unique fight scenes that are also going to tell a story. So the telepathy and the super soldierness and all of that stuff plays in together to create some wild fight scenes and some wild situations. But yeah, it's they go in to acquire this high value target and things get crazy.
It goes left. Yeah.
It goes.
So one question I had, what was it like? Because you mentioned earlier about being wary about bringing too many people on too early, right? And I know what it's like to work in screenplays, work in TV and film, and understanding that once you write something, that's really like the beginning of the process. Then you got the director, you got the producers, you got the act, you got all these different creative processes that your work goes through, right? So what was it like for you to, after you created these characters, you've written this script, and now you sort of pass it? Because if I remember correctly, y'all didn't direct it, right? Y'all didn't. Yeah. No. So what was that like, passing that off to other people's creative process and saying, let's see what happens? You know what I'm saying?
Chris.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, so we've known James for a number of years, right? Before this project even came up. We met James, I think it was 2017 or 2018 in Anaheim at WonderCon. We were, exhibiting there, and that's when we first met him. And we kept in touch with him, talked to him a whole bunch over the years, went to him for advice with questions. I mean, he's been in the game for a while. He's an OG. So, and he's one of the very few people that we've met over all these years that we actually trust, and that we know is going to do right by us and is going to do right by our IP or our content. So when he came to us with the idea of doing the short film, again, trust, right? Coming back to that, it was there. He had the plan. He had the crew. He had the team. He brought Michael Lear on, is the guy who directed it. Michael Lear is another OG in the game.
So he approached y'all about doing the film.
He did.
Okay,
he approached us about doing it. He wanted to do a film project. He knew we had the graphic novel. He thought it would be a perfect fit, and he asked if he could do it, use it, for the film. We were like, hell yeah. Like, we were going to say no? Hell yeah, But again, he brought on Michael Lear. Michael Lear did the stunt choreography and the fight choreography for John Wick projects, Continental, on Prime. I think he was also in a John Wick movie. He was worked on Fast and the Furious franchise. He worked on Daybreak with Jamie Foxx on Netflix.
Extraction
on Netflix. He worked on that joint.
Big time.
The new Mortal Kombat 2 movie that's coming out, he worked on that joint. I think he was head fight choreographer on that, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, Michael Lear he's him. Right? He's that dude. Yeah. So he brought him on to direct and do the fight choreography. And then again, like Steph said, they went out, got all their people. So from a production and a talent standpoint, it's like, all right, we got an A team, right? And then, I think also what eased the worry or the nervousness or any trepidation was when they were developing the actual script, right? They brought Steph and I in. They talked to us about it. They ran things by us. If they wanted to make a change or if they wanted to deviate a little bit from the original, story, they asked us if it was okay first. They didn't just take creative liberties and start, throwing shit out there, and then we find out when we're watching it for the first time. So again, there's a certain level of professionalism, but then again, the trust that was there. So for me, I wasn't really too nervous or worried throughout the entire process because of all these things that are taking place, and then the people that I know are involved. I think if anything, my curiosity was through the roof because I'm anticipating seeing it. And I'm like, I got to see what it's all about, right? And then another part, and Steph, I'm gonna turn it over to you on this because when they were actually filming, I wasn't able to go out to LA to be there, but Steph was. So Steph got to be able to see it actually being made and everything. And Steph, what about you though? When you were out there, like, how did you feel about it, how it was coming together?
Yeah, like I echo all the things that Chris said. It was a very professional outfit. They did a very good job because as as you're saying, Ro, like whenever you hand over your creative work to other people, you don't know what they're going to do with it, right? Like even, the most trustworthy people, they can get into the process and someone else can come in and be like, well, I'm giving you guys some money, so you got to kind of do this, right? Or whatever, right? There's always that possibility. As Chris said, they were very professional. And then when we're on set, they were very, they consulted me, they were like, hey, we want to make this change. Does this work? Because there were some fundamental changes to the way some of the characters worked. Just because for practicality of shooting, for budgetary purposes, like there's all these things that go into, that go into making anything, whether it's a movie, a TV show, a comic book or whatever, right? There's all these different considerations. But yeah, we were fortunate to have that experience. Who's to say that our next experience is going to be that seamless? It's going to be kind of like, all right, we might have some people be like, hey, you guys came up with the idea. You gave us a script. Now sit over there while we make it happen, right? We know that that's a possibility that might happen, and we understand that. We understand how it works, and we understand that sometimes decisions have to be made and things have to be changed in order for things to come to fruition. But our idea is that if we make ourselves as valuable to the process as possible, whether that is just being as cooperative as possible, being as good of partners as possible, to always be able to be somewhere in the room or around the room, we can at least we can be an asset, right? And if we're an asset, then we can make sure that we have at least some input until we are in the position where we are the decision makers. One day that's coming, right? We believe that's coming. One day we're going to be the ones who are going to be sitting there like, no, everything comes through us, right? But we know that we got to work our way up there. We're willing to, and we're willing to put in that work though. So yeah.
One of the things that I love about your brand, as I was, looking through, all your material, is your not your willingness, but you're not afraid to say, like, we taking over. Like even earlier, I think Christopher said something about dominating. We here to dominate, right? And I think your slogan, "We got next," right? What is the thing that fuels that daringness to say, like, we here now? What's up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the Bronx. Maybe it's the Bronx in y'all. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely some of the Bronx. That's for sure. Because that's where I grew up there. You did.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's like we used to say, it's like when what's that saying? When your idols become your rivals, right? Like we're not out here trying to we're not trying to like throw shade at what's out there, or what's been established, right?
Yeah.
Marvel and DC and Star Wars and Harry Potter and all that stuff, right? All that sci-fi and fantastical stuff and horror stuff and things that we love. The reason we love it is because that stuff existed. Yeah. We can talk about like the direction certain things have gone in, and we can critique how certain things have gone over. Absolutely, right? But we still love that. And the reason we critique it is because we love it.
Right.
And so we look at that and we're like, yo, we want to like at the very basic, we want to be like them. And then on the next level, we want to take over. Like it's like you know, we trust in our creativity. We know that people want new stuff. When new stuff comes out, people are looking for it. They love their legacy stuff, but they also love falling in love with new stuff too. Right. So when we were like, yo, we could just put out one story, but why not give people an entire world to dive into? You know, get in there and like be that for people. Like there's people out there with amazing stories and stuff like that. Like we respect creativity across the board. Like we are not here to say we're not here to say that anybody else is totally whack. We're here to say that, yo, you're gonna have to listen to us though. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to listen. So, you know, and we think that is one of the elements that's gonna help us to push forward, is that respect for creativity, you know, that respect for what's been out there and how we can build on the legacy of other stuff while taking it in new directions and trying to fill gaps that we see. You know, if there's a gap out there, we're like, yo, we need a little bit more representation. If we need a little bit more diversity, if we need a little bit more, you know, we need a new style of action. If there's not enough stories out there about Black women, if there's not enough stories out there about whatever, we want to add to that. We want to build that. We want to give people more. I always say this, people, whenever someone says like, oh, well, you know, there's already superhero stuff out there. And I was like, well, people who like superhero stuff. They're not going to say, oh, well, I've had so much superhero stuff I don't want anymore. They're going to be like, no,
I've had my fill.
I've had my fill of superhero. It's like, you know, no one's going to be like, you know, people like dragon stories. Then when the next dragon story comes out, they're going to watch that one too, you know? So it's like, how do we take stuff that has been out there and make it more, make it bigger, make it better, add to it? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're not just looking for a seat at the table. We want the seat at the head of the table. Like, that's what we're coming for, you know. And we believe not only do we have the skill, right? Our pen game is dope enough to do it, but we believe that we have what people are looking for. Like Steph said, when we would go to the cons all those years, one thing that people always told us was, it's not like we love it because you guys just don't have one character or one comic book series, right? You have an entire universe for us to dive into, to immerse ourselves in. And if we want to live over here for a minute, there's way more content than we will ever need to live here and to still, you know, love it. And then if we want to jump over here to this other part of your universe, we can do that too. And we can immerse ourselves there, you know? And so it's a sense of excitement of, man, there's something else on that level, right? On the DC Marvel level, as far as just a volume of content, and it's brand new. And they feel like they can grow with us at the same time. Like our success is also their success because they're more actively engaged in a part of Creative Extreme, its journey and what it's doing. And that's what's going to get us the seat to the table. And then when we get to the seat of the table, we're going to sit at the head of the table. And then when we're sitting at the head of the table, that's when, like Steph said, idols become rivals, and we're going to be competing with the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, I think y'all on the right track. I think y'all know who Brandon Sanderson is?
Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar. But
he's my favorite fantasy author. And he actually, so he has a universe called the Cosmere. And so short story, when he first came into publishing, this was probably like 15 years ago now, they told him, they said, hey, you probably shouldn't write a series. You probably should just write one book. And, you know, because they may not take a chance on your whole series. So what he did was he wrote like his first like 3 or 4 books were standalone books, but they took place on certain planets, but all those planets are in the same galaxy.
Yeah.
So now Brandon Sanderson is like, I mean, he did last year, he did maybe 2 years ago, he did a Kickstarter campaign that raised like $40 million, broke Kickstarter. Like he's been killing the game. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, I get a notification. Oh, he just signed his Cosmere universe to Apple. So they about to work on, he has a series called Mistborn, which is a classic. and he has another series called the Stormlight Archive, which is like a massive epic series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he just signed with Apple, and I think that's what some of these studios are looking for. Like you said, not just like the one story or the, the cool, they're looking for universes where they can say, look, we can do TV shows, we can do video games, we can do all those things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think I admire the people who say, I want to sit at the head of the table. Cause for me, I'm the guy who I don't want to build the table. I don't want to sit at the head of the table. I just want to be at the table and help those people build their stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I see myself like a mercenary, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna help you write this. I help you put this together. Then I'm gonna go over here, do my thing. Then I'll come back and help you. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see myself. So whenever I'm talking to people who have that desire and that ambition, I'm always like, I always want to champion those people because I know that we need people to be in those roles and to sit at the heads of those tables and to build those tables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that being said, my last question before we move to our last segment and we get out of here, it's a short film, right? The short film? Or is it a full? It's a short film.
Yeah, yep. Short film.
So what's y'all's vision? What's y'all's plan for where that will end up?
So we have a feature-length screenplay written already for
Alpha Initiative Zero. Yep.
Yeah, for Alpha Initiative Zero. So the short film also doubles as a proof of concept, right? To show to people. Every single person in our network within the industry that has seen it has said they love it. They're like, we haven't seen anything like this for a military action adventure superhero mix up, smash kind of thing. Everybody loves the fight choreography and the action sequences in it. And so, hopefully that'll parlay enough interest for us to be able to sit down with a studio or production company, have them say, all right, what do you have for a feature length film version of this? Well, we already got the screenplay. Bang, here you go. Right. And then we partner together.
Bang. I love it. I love it.
Here you go. Right. And we partner together to bring it to the big screen in a 2-hour format. And hopefully, Lord willing, we'll be able to bring the crew along with us, because like I said, we got an A-team, man. And they helped us make the magic the first time. Like what's the saying? It's you dance with who you came to the ball with, right?
Yeah.
We came together. Like let's keep the magic going. Let's keep rocking. So that's the goal, or that's the plan. Obviously, if somebody comes and sees it and says we want to make it into a series, or we want to put it on streaming, right? We want to do a mini series or a 3-part series on streaming. We're not going to say no, So we're open to whatever. But that's the goal: is to take the short, have it serve as a proof of concept, and to show people this is what we can do on our own without y'all. With y'all, we can make magic together. Let's get it popping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the link to their website, to the Creative Extreme website, is in the description of this video. Definitely check out, their website, check out, all the things they got going on, from Project 365 to this short film and what it's going to turn into. Definitely check it out, support, because I truly believe that, you guys are going to do some great things, with this work. And so I'm excited to see where y'all go with it. And so with that being said, before we get out of here, I have a segment called The One. These are like rapid fire questions.
Okay. so we got to be short-winded with these, all right?
Well, you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, feel free.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's
put it. Not. So what's one book or comic book you think everyone should read?
8 Billion Genies.
Okay.
I read it. Yeah.
That's a recent one, right? That came out.
Yeah, that's like it's a few years old, but yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha Initiative Zero.
Hey, okay. Shameless plug. I can dig it. All
right, go.
What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Man.
Advice that I took back in the day, I would say always be overqualified. You're never ready for a promotion until you're overqualified for the position you're in. So be overqualified so you can move on.
Man. maybe
So much.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
It's like,
there would be a long
help. I
conversation.
needed help, yo.
If I was talking to my younger self, it would be a long conversation. I think one piece of advice, I think it would be just keep going. Keep going, man.
Yeah.
Keep going. Don't ever stop. Don't ever quit. Keep going. Because one thing, especially, you're gonna learn when you're in this game is the people that make it are the people that keep going.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 years,
Yep.
you gotta keep going. Don't quit. And I think that applies to all areas of life. So yeah, man, just keep going. Keep
Yeah,
going,
yeah.
young C. Keep going.
Keep going. Keep going. All right. What's one word that you would want to describe your legacy?
Ooh.
Individual legacy or creative extreme legacy?
Either or. I'm usually only talking to one person, so that's so yeah, either or. If y'all want to do for the company or you want to do for each of you, hey, do what you do.
One word for creative extreme.
I really thought you was gonna say bong, but you didn't.
I'll see that'll drive it home. That'll drive it home. For creative extreme, I think I would want people one word.
He was about to get a paragraph. I
had to make it more succinct.
Incomparable. Okay. Yep. Incomparable.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that for the business.
Yep.
Individual.
We can skip that if you want. You don't gotta do
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. I don't want to skip.
All right, go ahead. Do your thing.
I want to come on something.
All right.
One word for me. Righteous. Righteous.
I'm gonna say. There it is. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say hungry. I'm gonna say hungry. Hungry for a lot of different things. So I can't encompass them all, but I'll say hungry.
Okay. Cool. All right, we got two more. What's one thing that you would change about your creative journey?
One thing.
I would have been this is gonna sound kind of bad, but I would have been more selfish. I would have been a little bit more selfish. Like I deferred a lot, like in just a lot of different ways, where I was like, like my time is coming. I actually got a lot more selfish when I started working with Chris, because Chris was like, yo, let's like just do it. Like who cares? Let's do it. I was like, all right, okay. I thought I had to make sure everyone else was happy before I did it for myself. Yeah. And then it was like, so I think I would have been more selfish faster.
Put your oxygen mask on first. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
For sure.
One thing I would have changed about my creative journey. In the beginning, I think I would put less stock into what other people thought or felt about what I was writing. Just being naturally competitive and also just being a creative. You want to do something that's dope, right? You want to write something that's greater than the last thing or greater than what everybody else is putting out. It's kind of like an MC writing rhymes. Like you want your next joint to be better than, the MC that came before you. And Steph told me this. He was like, just write, man. Just write. Whatever, just write. Don't worry about what it is, how it's coming out on the paper. Just write. Because you could always go back. We'll go back and we'll do what we need to do, after. But he's like, in the meantime or going forward, just write. And once I started doing that, once I started writing, just because I'd be on the bus or I'd be on the train, and I don't know if you remember Blackberries, I'd be on my Blackberry, just right, just writing away whatever was coming to me, whatever I creatively felt, I was just writing. And the next thing I know, I compiled this whole entire catalog of stuff that I wrote, and it didn't have a universal theme, it didn't have one direction, but it was all of what I just wanted to write. And that's when I was like, damn, like I should have been doing this from jump instead of trying to write what I think everybody's going to want to see or want to read. You know?
Yeah. The last thing is, what's one thing that you would want anybody who hears this or sees this to take away from this conversation?
If you are a financier or a producer or an executive, reach out.
Cut the check, baby. Cut the check.
Cut the check. Bring the bag, man. You won't be disappointed. We'll all get rich together, right? And if you're already rich, we'll get you wealthy, right? As we're building up our wealth.
Let's go. Absolutely.
Let
me get 10%. Let me get 10%.
Put Row on. Right?
Yes.
Grinders fee, connections fee. He's the connect. Put Row on.
Word.
For regular people or for fans or for consumers or whoever else, one thing I want them to take away is, we're here. We're here. Come check us out. Come rock with us. We're here, and we're not going anywhere, and we're not stopping anytime soon. We already have a wealth of content for you to dive into in all different formats: digital, print, film. We got it. We got what you're looking for. So come rock with us.
Yep. Imagination without limitation is the only expectation. So let's go.
For sure. Y'all heard them. Definitely go check out their work, see what they got going on. It's great stuff. I was absolutely, I felt privileged to be seeing what I was seeing on the site and everything that you guys got going on. And then, before we go, I just want to say, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all's energy. I appreciate the way you guys have, just the brotherhood, the camaraderie that I can feel from how y'all work together. And I just wish nothing but the best for y'all and your future endeavors and everything you got going on. So I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. And
salute, man.
Thank
absolutely.
you for having us. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
This was dope. Had a great time, man.
Absolutely. And to all the people watching, definitely like, subscribe, share this with somebody. Again, check out, the Substack and check out my Patreon. If you don't know, I'm working on my first novel, planning to publish it at the end of the year, but I just posted my cover, posted the cover for the paid members on my Patreon the other day. So definitely check that out. And we got more stuff coming the rest of this year. So I appreciate y'all. Like I said, like this video, subscribe, share it with somebody. And with that being said, we are out of here and we love y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.